All right, guys, it's finally time to talk about setting up your virtual classroom, which is where you're going to communicate with your students. It's where you're going to create content and using almost any of the tools we've talked about, have a engaging space where you can collaborate and create content for your courses. So planning out this virtual classroom is a little different than a regular classroom, right? We want it to be fun, creative, real. Maybe virtual, right? You can use a virtual background, you can use a real background, but no matter what, we need some amount of good lighting so people can see you clearly. And I'm going to show you around our studio a little bit. Obviously, this is a little bit different than a classroom, but we're going to show you some examples of things that you can do on a really low budget to make your space look good. Now, another thing you're going to want is a quiet enough space so that everyone can hear you. Yes, you probably want to have a good microphone, and some of the webcams that we've shown have really good microphones built in, but you really want to have good lighting and a quiet space so there's no distractions. So let me show you a whiteboard that I have here. We have a really nice little whiteboard here in our studio, and I want to show this to you. So this is our whiteboarding space. And, we can use a whiteboard. You can also get a blackboard. I know at home, I actually have from IKEA. It was like $30. It's like a triangle like that with a little thing in the middle. And on one side, it's a blackboard. And on the other side, it's a whiteboard. And as teachers, you guys know how powerful these tools are. Blackboards are just better sometimes. And literally, I'm telling you, on IKEA, you can get this for very cheap. It wasn't a lot of money. And you could set that up in your home so you could actually go from your webcam and turn to this. And I also want to give you just a quick peek. And again, we're using a smartphone with an app called NDI. It's a free app. It's called NDI Camera. And I'm going to show you a little bit around the studio on what we've done, just some simple tricks here. So we have some pretty big lights in this studio. So you might want to get some lights. You can get some really affordable ones on Amazon. It will improve the way that you look on camera. But this is that whiteboard area that's right next to my space. But what I want to show you guys is just some simple things. You can buy a pack of this foam board stuff, which if you have echoes or you're having audio issues, you can tape these to the wall and it will take care of a lot of the audio issues. If you wanted to, now this is going a little bit beyond what maybe most people would do. This is not brick. This is wallpaper. And it was peel and stick wallpaper. So you can literally very cheaply take a wall and make it look cool. You could have wallpaper of the galaxy or the universe, or you can have wallpaper of brick, and you can have all kinds of little things. We put a little sign that says robotics drive, and again, just a couple little things in your space to make it look good. So that's just an idea, a couple ideas I wanted to show off. Okay, so again, and that app we're using is called the NDI app. We will go into it in more detail as we look at OBS, because it's a great free way to get a camera source into your OBS, and you can literally pull it right into Zoom and Google Meet. So let's get back to your virtual classroom. But again, take note, by showing you that little live preview of my space, how much more interactive and engaging did that feel? Imagine if you could do that with your students in the midst of a lecture that you're doing. Now, your goal as an instructor is not so much to teach anymore, but it's to create an environment where students can be active and participate with the issues of the day. So as we shift, I really do believe your virtual classroom, especially if we're talking about totally online distance learning, that space that you're in should be a space that's fun, engaging, exciting, and a space where students kind of feel, oh, that's where the lectures were recorded. Oh, that's where my professor is. And now I get to have one-on-one meeting with them after the classroom meeting. It really is of value to have a good space. Now, remember, live presentations at this point are less about your ability to deliver and more about your ability to facilitate interaction with others. So you can deliver a great presentation and speech inside your lectures. That's totally good. We want to do that. But during your online meetings, and your live presentations, it's less about delivering and more about facilitating and collaborating. So you should be in a comfortable space, a well-lit space. Everyone should know that you're present, right? Your presence is so important. More than 90% of online communications is nonverbal. So you don't even need to speak. You just need to be there and facilitate the interaction with your students. Now, learning happens when students experience something, when they can think critically, test the limits of their own understanding, and take risks. So we do want to encourage students to collaborate, right? In small groups even. And Zoom has a great tool for breakout sessions where you can break out of a large classroom and break into small groups where students might feel more comfortable sharing and taking those risks that are important during their experiences in education. So as a teacher, you want to learn to become a good meeting moderator when we're talking about online communications, right? Zoom meetings. We want to think critically and test the limits of our students' understanding so that they can take risks. And in that way, when we're transitioning from, in classroom, right, to online, which I think these little pictures really show that really well, that transition there, you're more of a meeting moderator. And we're going to go into how to be a meeting moderator, a better meeting moderator in a lecture coming up. But I think as a guide, as a mentor, being a good meeting moderator, there's a lot to learn there. I wrote an entire book called the Online Meeting Survival Guide, which the PDF copy of this I will include for free in this course so that everyone can get this. There's a lot of great information about equity of voice, making sure that everyone is heard, and having a meeting where everybody kind of has some input so that they're invested in the communication and collaboration. I think that at this point, especially in the high school level courses, the college level courses, students need to even themselves have some professional development on being an attendee of an online meeting. And as a teacher, you are the moderator. Now, growth happens at the end of your comfort zone. And as a teacher, it's your job to help students find themselves in these uncomfortable situations, if you will, or at least with regard to their understanding of the course content. Now, Ben Franklin once said, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. So involve me and I will learn." It's so important. And Confucius is an ancient Chinese professor. He said, "I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand." So how can we get that interactivity, that engagement, the collaboration in online learning? That is where it's really at. So finding the best way to present your materials are great, but can we fit in games, songs, and activities into the learning process? And that is part of building your virtual classroom. You need to have a full plan for interactivity and engagement and activities. So when we're planning out these activities, it could be playing a short video, using some of those technology tools that we talked about in our last lecture. Are we going to have everybody watch a segment of a video or different segments of different videos? Are we going to have students provide images? Are you going to provide the images? Are we going to have information coming from the news or a recent investigation maybe that happened at school or in a backyard or somewhere where we're gathering information and news? And another thing I think is so important is the use of colors. Now, I have this little hands up, down, left, right thing, and these can be purchased online, so you can ship these to your students so they can give you, hey, green is good, hey, red is bad. But also with virtual backgrounds, which are really great, and we'll talk about using virtual backgrounds coming up, is you might want to have a yellow background for one class and a green background for another, right? So that students can associate colors with different days of the week. I've even had teachers tell me, they do motivational Mondays where they play a motivational clip at the beginning of the week and maybe a special background that goes with that. So there's so much you can do, and we'll talk about that. But virtual backgrounds, colors, things like that, of that nature, activities that go with the day of the week or the time of the month are very important. And then virtual whiteboarding is also a great option as an activity where you can plan out either with a document camera like we talked about, annotating on a virtual whiteboard, all great options for getting that interactivity. Now, when we create these interactive learning activities that encourage active participation, we want to consider creating activities that immerse the students, such as maybe scenarios, games, or rich e-learning presentations. Now, especially at the beginning of a semester, we want to get the icebreakers out, right? And so you can Google online a list of great icebreakers. One of my favorites are the scenarios, where you say, if you are going to a abandoned island, right? A desert island, an isolated island, what's one thing you would bring with you that you couldn't live without? So revealing about a person, and everyone gets to know each other, and we remember, oh, Emily was the girl who would definitely bring her hairdryer, or Billy was the one boy who would definitely bring his football. Sorry, that's a little stereotypical, but I'm just saying that you remember those things and they're great icebreakers. Games are obviously something that should be incorporated throughout the entire semester. We want to mix and match old and new, right? We want to mix and match digital whiteboards with plain old paper, and this is something we've talked about. Using a real blackboard, using a real whiteboard, using a digital whiteboard, using a pen captured by a document camera. I think there's a lot there with blending the old and the new. We want to invite subject matters into your courses if possible, into this virtual classroom that you have. Don't forget that you can act like a lead detective and you can encourage your class to join in, right? So it's kind of like setting that tone that anyone could join this online meeting. Maybe we're going to meet with another class. Maybe you're going to compete with another class. And we'll talk about how to do that and set up, competitions between students, or maybe classes, or maybe even small groups, and kind of harp on that tribe mentality that you can create. But remember, you can invite subject matter experts to present along with you. And I think that's powerful as well. So hopefully those give you some good ideas on how to create a really powerful and fun virtual classroom. All right, guys, we're moving along. We're covering a lot of ground, but we still have a lot to go. So let's get into our next video.